G'day guys, Chronicles of Solid here and welcome back to the garage. A few subscribers have been asking me what tools I take in my little toolbox here when I go out on a trail ride or an adventure ride. So today I wanted to go through all of the tools I take and hopefully help you out in deciding what you should bring with you. So let's get into the video. Okay, so the first and obvious thing in the little toolbox is some duct tape, and you can see I've just got a couple of latex gloves crammed in there. It's all about saving space, so you use any little space you can get. So the latex gloves are just for if you have to deal with an oily engine or a greasy chain on the fly, and duct tape really doesn't need explaining. It is a real lifesaver if you've broken some plastics or you need to keep something together or you rip your duffel bag. So always bring some duct tape with you. Okay, the next thing in my pack is a little LED light. It's a torch and a kind of a lamp. And it has a little hook on here. You can hook onto plenty of stuff and a magnet on the back. And the main reason I got this is so I can slap it to the side of the bike. It lights up where I'm working. So it really helps if I'm on a ride and I've forgotten to bring another light source with me. This is really handy, especially for working on a motorcycle. Next item I take with me is a tow rope. Now not everyone in the group needs to take this, and if you ride with people regularly you can often talk between each other and take different items so you don't double up. But for myself, I ride with a lot of different people, so I always take a tow rope with me. This particular one is by MSR and I think it's called their ATV tow rope. Next thing I take with me is a metric Allen key set. This one's pretty much a necessity for me because I have problems with my handguard knocking the banjo bolt on my front brake master cylinder, so I'm always using these to fix that. But they are pretty handy. Most Japanese motorcycles use metric Allen keys. Really, you can tailor this to your bike and take whatever you need on my. So next up is just a container to keep all my sockets in the same spot. I've just nicked my wife's old makeup container here and repurposed it. So it's just got all my sockets, a little socket extension. You can see it's got Phillips head and a flat head in there, different sizes. And I've got a few little nuts and bolts and tiny Allen keys in there, just in case something falls off my bike and I need to bolt something back on. It's always good to have one or two extra bolts. So just before we get into what's in the tool roll, you might notice these little things flopping about. These are just the packets that come in vitamin boxes or in shoe boxes that keep the products dry. I just keep a few of these dropped in here just to keep any moisture that gets in. These suck up all the moisture so it doesn't damage you, don't get rust on your tools. This is waterproof, this top case, but a little bit of added security is always a good thing. So this is just a cheap standard tool roll from Super Cheap Auto here in Australia. They're just basically a cheap auto sales place. And I've basically gone with the tool roll. I didn't always use the tool roll, but I've found it handy, especially when you're in the dirt, just laying it out. It keeps the tools nice and clean when you're in the dirt and in the mud. But it also stops a lot of your stuff jiggling about in the toolbox. The foam in here does a really good job, but I find that with the tools in loose, they do tear up the foam a lot quicker than if they're in a tool roll in the top case. It doesn't seem to damage the foam so much, and it's also less rattling. So the tool roll is a really nice idea. Now the first thing I'll go into is a real kind of crappy MacGyver job. This here is just two little magnets on a screw, and I've just tightened it around some wire. And basically I can use that to drop into tight spots to pick up little screws that I've dropped. Now you'd think that's probably a stupid thing to take and just needless weight, but I've actually had to use that on a friend's KLR where his battery terminal got loose and the little screw dropped all the way down into his engine, and luckily I had that and we're able to feed it down and grab the screw, so it saved his bacon. Obviously everywhere around I've got little spanners. I try not to have any spanner that doesn't have a purpose, so that is the 10mm. It's the only 10mm I'll carry. Okay, you can see here all the different heads just sitting there. That's just came with this actual tool roll, so I've just left it in there. I probably need to sort out these heads with the stuff you saw in the socket box. Other thing I take is WD-40. Doesn't really need to be explained. That stuff is just really good if you've got bolts that are just refusing to budge, or if you need to, in a spot, lube your chain. I wouldn't recommend it, but it'll work as a short-term solution. Next up is a must-have, and you can see here I've got 3 tire irons. All of them have corresponding bolts to help get my wheel off. So I've got a 27 and a 22mm on one end, and then the spoons on the other end for the tires. Now, a lot of you might be saying, why do I take 3 on there? Well, if you've ever changed a tire, it certainly can be done with 2, but I'm not that great. I've only ever had to do it once, and 3 tire irons just makes it so much easier for me. So I want it to be as easy as possible when I'm working on the trail. So 3 tire irons, and they're very, very light, so taking 1 extra isn't going to make a difference. I have 2 different types here. This one's the DRC spoon tire tool, and this one is the Motion Pro tire lever. And if you're looking for a tire lever, I go the Motion Pro. This is ridiculously light. It's very tough, and the ending is very important here. This one, I find it very, very hard to pinch the tube, just the way it's made, and this little lip just really helps you get some purchase in there. I would recommend these Motion Pro ones. I have a tiny little ratchet here just for the sockets. It's very minimal, it's very dinky, but it's lasted the years sitting rattling around in here in the back. It's come in handy. I also take a lighter with me, cable ties as well, lots of varying different sizes. Don't really need to explain. Cable ties are pretty handy in holding bits of plastic on, or a part of your bike that's not fallen off, or maybe your bolts come off and you've got no bolt to go in there. You can always thread a cable tie through and tighten it up. I'd also take an adjustable spanner, because there's always going to be that bolt that you might have forgotten about, and you don't have that correct size. So this allows you to get rid of a lot of these kind of spanners. You can just use this for a lot. The reason I do have a few of these spanners is because this is a bit thick, and for some of the tight spaces this isn't so great for fitting in, but I would always take one. And it's also handy if you want to work on a mate's bike and he's got different size stuff to you. Next one is obviously just the top to a Phillips head slash flathead screwdriver. It's always handy to have. This stuff here is absolute magic. It's called Quick Steel, and it's basically like a epoxy putty, but for metal parts. So it's fantastic for when you like bust a hole in your engine casing. You can actually use this to plug up the hole, and I have seen plenty of videos and testimonies of guys who have put holes in their engine casings, and this has plugged up the gap, stopped the oil from coming out, and it's allowed them to get back home rather than have a huge expensive towing cost. So if you can, at least for your bigger adventures, take some Quick Steel. Okay, so next up we've got stuff also down in the little zip area here. I'll just start fishing it out. So here is just obviously a little tire patch kit. I take a tube with me on the front as well, but it's always helpful to have a little patch kit. You never know whether you're going to puncture your spare tube as well, or someone else might have some problems, so a little tire repair kit is always a good idea. This is just bits and bobs from my IMS aftermarket tank. You can see I've got a spare T-junction here. I've got a little valve remover for the tires in there as well, a few little pipe connectors, some extra hosing, just little bits and bobs to help repair any problems with my fuel lines. This is probably something not everyone needs to take on the trail. It really depends on where you're riding. This was given to me as a gift, and it's basically a wood saw, a little metal one. It doesn't look like much, but maybe you can see here it's got very serrated edges. So those are all the tools in my toolbox. Obviously I take a couple more tools with me, but they live up here in my tank bag where I can get to them very easily, so let's get into those. Okay, so those two tools that I always have up in my tank bag, reason being is I use them on most of my rides. Now the first is an obvious one, and that's a little tire pump. This one is just from a mountain bike shop. It's very compact, and the reason I got it is you can change the head on this, so I can use it on my bicycle and just twist this off and it fits the valve on my motorcycle. So it's very handy, very lightweight, and I use it pretty much every ride. The other one is a multi-tool. Now if you don't know what a multi-tool is, then you really need to educate yourself, but it's basically a little device. It's a pair of pliers, it's scissors, a ruler, a knife, a saw, a Phillips head screwdriver, a flat head screwdriver. It's basically multiple tools in a small compact device. This one is by Leatherman. It's a Leatherman Wave. They're fantastic, and if you only had to take two tools, or you could only take a few tools because you're going ultra lightweight, these would be the two to take. So that's what I take in my toolbox. Some of you might be thinking, oh my god, Solid, that's really not enough to take with you on those way out there adventures. Others may be looking at you like, what the hell are you thinking? You don't need that many tools. But that's the whole thing with dual sports and with tools in any facet of motorcycle riding, is it really is up to you and your comfort. For me to feel safe out on the trails, I like to have most of my scenarios covered for a breakdown, so I take those particular tools with me. Some guys take the whole kitchen sink, other guys will just take nothing at all, or a couple of tire spoons and a spare tube. It really is up to you, and do what makes you feel comfortable as well. Okay guys, that about wraps up this episode. Hopefully going through the tools I take with me is helpful in putting together your own kit for off-road, especially you beginners out there. Until next time, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And any seasoned guys that have a really great tool that I maybe missed, or a really lightweight tool that you want to share, please leave it in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you think. And until next time, I've been Chronicles of Solid, and I'll catch you in the next video guys. See you later.